Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I have a very important guest, two very important guests in studio with me, and they are associated with TIAA, which is one of our main sponsors for a yearly event we have called State of Higher Education Forum. So this was the second year that we did that. It was very successful for him. Adeeb, you were there, so we appreciate you doing that. But I have two guests from TIAA. I have Bellucci, who is the Senior Managing Director, and then Adeeb Khan, who is the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility. So welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Great, Alex. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you. Very excited to have you guys in studio. One thing that I always do with my guests, so my audience can get to know you a little bit better and why you're such an expert at TIAA, is I have you guys both give a little bit of your background information, and so we can get to know you guys a little bit better. Ray, I'm going to start here with you. You told me an interesting fact.
So I've been with TIAA for 36 years full-time, but I actually started in high school as an intern with the New York City Cooperative Education Program.
Awesome. So I started here as an intern. We have that in common. I believe that internships are one of the best ways to pave your career, hands down. I think it's whether it's paid or unpaid. Obviously, we always prefer paid. But it's getting your foot in that door, and it starts that networking right away, which I think is really tough for a lot of students. Until I got here, I had no idea what networking was. And it was a big leap for me, but I'm getting there. I'm doing well with it. So tell me about your career path. And you've had two title changes since we started the date of this recording. So tell me about your career path at TIAA.
Sure. I started at TIAA in our New York City office and moved to Denver in 1995 to open our call centers and our backup data center. And then in 2001, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to open our facility there. And then we came back in 2008. So most recently, my responsibilities included operations and onboarding for new clients and changes that institutional customers make with their retirement plans. And then on May 1st, I started a new role as the head of institutional relationships in the central and western regions.
Awesome. So you've built that corporate ladder.
Yes.
Or built that. You didn't build it. You climbed it well.
It's more of a climbing wall than a ladder.
Yes. I totally understand that. Well, I appreciate that, Ray. Thank you so much. Adeeb, let's hear your background and why did you want to get involved with TIAA?
Yeah, I'm from Wyoming originally. My parents immigrated to this country in the late 60s. And I started my career, I went to the University of Southern California. I moved straight to Denver. I always loved the city. I moved here and really was passionate about working in the nonprofit sector. So I began my career as working at the American Red Cross. I ran some programs there. Then I went to the United Way here in Denver and worked a lot with volunteerism and community engagement. And at that time, when I was at United Way, part of my job responsibilities was to help companies engage in the community and to help them create impact. And what I saw was that there was just a big need inside the companies to really get directed more towards impact. And so I got my MBA at the University of Denver, got a concentration in corporate social responsibility as part of my MBA. And then right at that time, soon after I graduated, this position had opened up in Denver. And so I applied for it, and I've been there for about 4 years now. And it was really just about, I fully believe that the corporate world is the most important source of creating meaningful, long-lasting impact in our communities. The nonprofit sector obviously has a significant role, as does our government, but I think that the impact potential that we have as a company is huge. And TIAA has been rooted in doing that type of work for its entire history. So to be able to go from the nonprofit world to be able to essentially work for a nonprofit corporation, Fortune 100 company, was a great opportunity. And I've been there now for, like I said, about 4 years doing this work. And the company has kind of completely embraced what we've done as a CSR team to make our company more impactful in the community.
That is wonderful.
Adeeb and the Corporate Social Responsibility team have made a huge impact at TIAA and also within the community, working with everything from United Way to Grow House to Metro Caring, and has just made a huge impact. Our employees love giving back to the community, and Adeeb and his partner, Charla Candy, make it so easy for them.
Wonderful. And actually, I had Shelly Ann Ewick on.
Yes.
Yes, she joined me with Junior Achievement, which is another nonprofit that you guys partner with, and you have some great work both on the national level and here in Colorado. There's a lot that you guys touch on, and it's super exciting to see a corporation really get involved in their community. It's not something that you typically see with multi-million-dollar corporations. So exciting stuff. I love hearing that. I love hearing how much you're giving back to Colorado and Denver, really. I want to talk about TIAA and their integration, moving from the East Coast here to Colorado. How far west do you guys go?
So TIAA is actually an international company. So
Cool.
our asset management arm, Nuveen, has real estate, $130 billion real estate portfolio across 14 countries around the world. Our headquarters is in New York City. Denver is our second largest location with about 1,500 employees downtown. But our customers for the core retirement business are in every state.
Awesome. Good to hear. So let's talk about the history. And so you guys started as kind of being educational advocates, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, you know, one of the inspiring stories for me about working at TIAA is just understanding our heritage and our roots. And it really started with Andrew Carnegie. Some people say Carnegie. I say Carnegie. But he saw during his work and his career how so many college professors were ending their career with essentially nothing in poverty. And he saw that was a huge issue, and it was hurting our entire education system, especially our higher education system. And so with $1 million of his own money, he set aside to really start TIAA, which was established to be a financial solution for so many of those individuals. And that began in 1918, and we recently just celebrated our 100th anniversary. But our roots are really grounded in this nonprofit heritage of ensuring that those who give back, those who are serving, those who work in those fields like nonprofit, education, government, have an opportunity to still have financial success for their career. And so we've maintained that identity throughout the last 100 years and are pushing to do that for the next 100 years.
You know, our connection to Colorado actually goes back to 1919. Our very first institutional customer was Colorado College.
Wow. How fun.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. So this is really exciting. I as much as businesses, corporations are looking to make a profit, one of the things that TIAA does very well is making sure that they are a part of the community, looking out for people to make sure that they have a steady life, right, after retirement. And you guys are amazing at that. I love hearing about that. So let's talk about the mission that you guys have, right? So I'm sure it ties in here with Andrew Carnegie's goals of making sure that we have those professors living a nice life, right? Not extravagant by any means, but we want to make sure that they can eat more than ramen noodles for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you know, TI is very interested also in total financial wellness for the participants of our retirement plans. And to the point Adeeb was making, you know, the idea for TIAA really came up as Andrew Carnegie and Henry Pritchett, who was the president of MIT at the time, they were having a conversation. Andrew Carnegie was serving on Cornell's board. And that's where he became exposed, as Adeeb said, to the state of higher education and the state of the professoriate actually retiring into poverty. So that conversation from which was born the concept for TIAA, and Henry Pritchett was our first president.
Oh, cool. Well, that worked out really well. So walk me through, I guess, kind of the history from there. Obviously, you two probably weren't around then, I'd imagine. No? Okay.
Ray's been around a little longer than I have. So he knows a little bit more about it than I do.
But I would imagine, though, in your 36-year career, you've seen some major changes.
Yes, we've seen a lot of changes. I mean, so, you know, TI is a groundbreaking organization in so many ways. You know, we created the first portable pension retirement plan in 1918, as Adeeb was saying. In 1952, we created the world's first variable annuity. But even our corporate social responsibility and our commitment to diversity goes back. In the 70s, we had, you know, female executives on our board of trustees. We had minorities on the board of trustees at TIAA in executive leadership positions. Dr. Clifton Wharton was the first African-American CEO of a Fortune 100 company. And now our current CEO and president, Roger Ferguson, who was the vice chair of the Federal Reserve, is also an African-American. So TI's commitment to diversity, our commitment to corporate social responsibility, goes all the way from our roots in our founding, but also in our social investing. So how we are growing practices. TIAA is one of the largest producers of grapes in Napa Valley. We're one of the largest timber producers in the Pacific Northwest. And our commitment to sustainable growing, sustainable farming is really worldwide.
Yeah, one of the largest investors in agriculture in the world, one of the largest investors in commercial real estate in the world. Most people really wouldn't identify this when they're thinking about TIAA, but there's so many products, whether it be almonds or wine or apples or the building that you're actually residing in, that TIAA has an investment, and then we do it with a different kind of lens and perspective than I think most investors, where we're looking at kind of the holistic responsibility of that investment itself. And that's a big part of who we are, and a big part of what makes us different is that we try to ensure and instill social responsibility in everything we're doing, from the investing side to how we operate as a company internally, how we hire and treat staff. I mean, Roger Ferguson, not only is he an African-American CEO, but I believe there's only 3 currently Fortune 100 companies that have an African-American CEO. And we've been committed to diversity and inclusion. And then it goes to how we treat our clients, how we treat the community that we work and live in. All of those things are really based in that mission that we have to be responsible for the people we work with, that we serve, and we live with.
And there's an organization called Ethisphere that has rated TIAA 3 years in a row as one of the most trusted financial services companies in the world. And then Diversity Inc. has rated us among the top companies for diversity.
Yeah, we've been 5 years in a row the world's most ethical companies, which is something you don't always see, especially in the financial services sector.
Absolutely.
What's weird? No, but honestly, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's super awesome to hear. And I don't know about you guys, but when I see a more diverse work group, I'm more inclined to do business with them. I'm more inclined to be a customer of theirs. I'm also more inclined to perhaps apply for a job. If I see a woman CEO, that excites me as a woman in business, right? And so I'm sure that you guys have a lot of people with that same mentality that come in when they apply for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
I'll say from my perspective, I come from immigrants from Pakistan. I'm a Muslim, and I've never once during my 4 years here at TIAA ever felt like it wasn't an inclusive environment. It wasn't a place where everybody had a voice and everyone was treated with respect. And I know for a fact that that isn't the case at every company. That isn't even the case at every place that you work. And so to be in a place that is that open, honest, and welcoming, and that puts that as a top priority, it really makes a huge difference in your overall quality of life as an individual, and also kind of, I think, the strides that you'll make to try and do the most for the company. You see it all the time. I think at our company, a lot of people do have that value. And I know for me personally, it's made a huge difference. And just in the 4 years I've been there, I've seen so many little examples of how the company's gone above and beyond to try and be more inclusive towards its overall population.
Awesome.
And even our chief diversity officer, Corey Pauling, we have an inclusion and diversity organization, not just a diversity organization. And I think that's a big deal. When you look at the company's core values, our first core value is put the customer first. But then it's value our people, act with integrity, take personal responsibility, execute with excellence. It's really everything we do is around this wrapper of core values at TIAA. And it really makes it an exciting place to work. Last year, we had close to 140 college interns through our 60 offices around the country that were working in different locations. Again, looking for that younger population. One of our goals is to, by 2025, mirror, from a diversity perspective, the colleges and universities that we serve.
Wow, that's an ambitious goal, but one I'm sure you'll have no trouble achieving. With all of the awards that you mentioned, that you've got awards for being a most ethical place to work, diversity awards. What other type of awards do you guys have that are, not that I'm asking you to brag, but I'm asking you to brag?
So when just from an asset management perspective, Nuveen is the asset management arm of TIAA, and they've received multiple awards for the best large fund company for mutual funds, as well as for our life cycle funds, have won for 4 years in a row for net performance. So when you look at what an investor is looking to save for retirement, and a university is looking to put an investment within their retirement plan, it's important that the company have a great track record, and not just a 1-year track record or a 2-year track record. Throughout the different business cycles, it's also important that that company be ethical especially as Adeeb mentioned, in financial services, to be rated one of the most ethical financial services companies, not something you normally equate with a financial services company. Right. And I think that's really where we stand out.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on that, I remember when I first started at TIAA, we looked at kind of this overall kind of culture survey that we do every year, and we were looking at the results, and it shows the different characteristics that defined our company. And profit motive or profit driven was one of the lowest scoring in terms of that not being a defining characteristic of how we operate. You know, we're not publicly traded, we're a privately held company, and to be in a financial services firm that isn't trying to push the profit drive every single day in your job is huge. And not only that, but our performance, despite that, is at the top level. We're outperforming so many of the other companies when it comes to our financial performance. And I think those two actually go hand in hand, even though it doesn't always make sense. But I think it's just because people really enjoy working at TI and they come to a place where they feel like they have a higher purpose. And because of that, you're able to attract top quality talent, and also because of our diversity and inclusion. And so those things all work together so you have a company that has a mission, which is different than so many of its competitors, and then has the performance that you don't always see with all of the other values that we have. And so, yeah, we've gotten awards for our performance in the financial services sector. We've gotten awards for how we operate internally. We've been publicly recognized here in Denver for a number of different awards in terms of, we just got an award last month for Mile High United Way for the best volunteer initiative. We've been recognized by Metro Caring as their partner of the year, as a corporation who's been giving back for their work. So there's a lot that we are proud of and that we like to hang our hat on because we do work hard and we try to get some of that notoriety and recognition.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and you mentioned something that struck me. Every voice is heard at your company. And that is something that I think a lot of people in the millennial generation and Gen Z are looking for when they go into the workforce. They want to make sure that they aren't just another cog in a huge system and going to be forgot about, right? Even the smallest of cogs can stop an entire operation. And it's exciting to hear that you guys feel that way.
And I'll just speak for Ray as an individual. I mean, I can't tell you how many times where I know people will reach out to Ray directly, and Ray gets back to everybody. I don't know how he does it, but he gets back to everybody within like an hour. And no matter who you are in the company, Ray's our most senior leader here in Denver. You know, if there's something with our culture, if there's something with our operations, if there's something going on, they know they can go to Ray if they need to, and they know that Ray's going to respond to them. And it goes all the way to the top to our CEO, Roger Ferguson. He's the exact same way. He's very approachable, somebody who will listen, somebody who will understand what you're saying, and really try to give you honest feedback towards that.
You know, when you look at the importance of role modeling, Adeeb, to your point specifically, from the top, Roger will be out here in a couple of weeks to do town halls with employees. We'll have our 25-year anniversary club for those that are entering the 25th year. What's surprising is the number of retirees who have retired from TI, in some cases 20 years ago, that will come to the dinner and will engage with Roger, and he will literally sit down and talk with individuals and ask them, so you retired 20 years ago, what was the company like when you started? And Roger often talks about TIAA in the context of, those that'll be here 30 years from now will look back at this leadership team and say, wow, they made some tough decisions, they positioned the company for success. But he literally will walk through the call centers and just greet people as Roger. Now, he's a PhD in economics from Harvard University, and as I mentioned earlier, was the vice chair of the Fed. He's had a tremendous career, but to the staff, he's Roger. And he expects no less from any of the leaders, and Adeeb, I'm sure you would agree, he expects no less from any of the leaders in the organization than he himself personally demonstrates.
I think it makes a huge difference to work at a company that has a CEO like Roger Ferguson, somebody who has the distinguished career that he has. I mean, as you said, a PhD in economics, at Harvard, as well as, all of the work that he's done, just, leader of the group of 30 in terms of Obama's economic advisors, vice chair of the Federal Reserve under Alan Greenspan, to be our CEO, and I think he's close to a decade, if not.
Yes, 11 years this April.
11 years. To have somebody of that stature and then have him be somebody who's so personally involved in the work that's happening at the company, it makes a huge difference. You feel like you're under the right leadership, and it really makes a huge difference in how you feel about the company as a whole.
Oh, yeah. One of the other things that you guys mentioned is that you're not profit-driven as far as the employees are concerned. Obviously, as a company in general, profits are what make the world go round. Let's be
Yes.
honest, right? That's just how business works. But for the employees, including yourselves, you're not so focused on profits. You're more focused on making sure that there's a work balance, right? And so one of the things, obviously, diversity is huge for you guys. You've got those ethical awards, which is mind-blowing to me, really. I keep mentioning it because it is so weird for a financial institution to receive those. But you focus on this work balance. And one of the things that you guys are great about doing, too, is the volunteer stuff.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So TIAA actually gives employees time to do volunteerism and to engage in volunteerism in the community. I mean, Adeeb, just last year, how many projects did we have here within the Denver community?
Just in Denver, we did about 80 service projects in the year. So we have 1,500 employees. We gave back over 4,000 hours of service. And we did just under, I think we ended up with 78 service projects. So if you think about that, we're doing almost 2 a week. And all of our managers are bought in, our leaders are bought in. We really encourage folks to kind of use those as team building opportunities. But we have so many people that have become more passionate about their community and now have clear avenues to be able to give back and make an impact. I think for me, that's one of the things I've learned over years is that so many of us want to give back. So many of us want to make a difference. But sometimes we can become a little bit overwhelmed about where to start, how to get involved, what's a good organization, what's not, where are the volunteer opportunities, how is this making an impact on the issue itself. And that's what we try to do as a CSR team is we try to provide those avenues to unique organizations that are creating quality impact, that are doing important work, and then have a corporate culture that's saying part of working at TIAA means that we're going to give back and we're going to be involved and we're going to try to develop some of these solutions, and not in a superficial way, but in a deep diving way. We try to work with less organizations, but we work with them over the long term. And we really try to respond to their needs. And so we're not really working and operating from a sense of, we need to engage our employees more and we need to create a better teamwork. We instead engage on to working with the nonprofit organization saying, what are your needs and how can we be a long-term partner in addressing those needs? And how can we have people who are coming back to your organization week after week so you can rely on us and you can expect us to be there? I think that's a huge part of how we try to approach things a little bit differently, is working with more select partners long-term. That way our employees really build that relationship and that connection to that organization. They start to understand it. And then over the long term, we want them just to convert then into being donors to that organization, getting involved in their own, taking their family to go volunteer at that organization. So it's really a multi-tiered approach, but it's rooted in the idea that we want to provide very easy, clear avenues for our employees to make an impact on the community and to do that with their colleagues and to make that part of our overall culture.
And this is nationally speaking that you guys offer this volunteer.
Absolutely. So last year we had over 60 offices participate in different corporate social responsibility projects. Specifically here in Denver, even our CEO participated in a park build, a playground build for the city.
That's right.
And we've had others, as Adeeb mentioned, we use it for team building events. So we've actually had teams come to Denver for their meeting, but then engage in a day of corporate social responsibility and volunteerism.
Right.
So we're finding that Denver is kind of a magnet for our staff to come and engage with the community. That's really because of the example that we've set locally. And, as Adeeb mentioned, family members are welcome. My son Stefan and my wife has both participated in volunteerism events, and oftentimes we'll go to do for Denver Urban Gardens, we'll do a garden build or something. You'll see entire family units there with shovels and gloves working together, which, to your point earlier around, work-life balance, it's like bring the whole family together to engage.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of families want to be able to show their children how they can make an impact, how they can give back, how they can serve, and we also try to do some of that work and make it easy for them. And to your question about nationally, we did 663 projects across the country last year, almost 30,000 hours of service, and that's all really in that same mold of deep impact, connected with organizations, looking at long-term solutions, rather than just kind of doing these one-offs that can sometimes happen.
Yes. I have many more questions focusing on Denver and how you've become such a great example for the rest of the company when it comes to volunteering. So we've talked pretty globally, mostly nationally. So I want to get down to the nitty-gritty of Denver and some numbers about Denver and your experiences there. So we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us here on Connect and Collaborate. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. You can find more information about this specific podcast in the description below, so click on that link. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Connect and Collaborate. Once again, I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I have two very exciting guests in studio with me. I have Ray Bellucci, who is the Senior Managing Director at TIAA for Central and Western Territories, regions, if you will. And then Adeeb Khan, who's the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility. So welcome back, you guys. This has been a fascinating conversation. First of all, TIAA is one of our big sponsors for the State of Higher Education Forum that we are on our second year. We will continue to have this forum annually. And so you guys speak a lot to the educational world, your financial institution. We learned in the last segment that you guys are super big on diversity and making sure that your ethical practices are up to date. But one of the things that I want to focus on for this segment specifically is your involvement in the Denver community, and perhaps Colorado too as a whole, but you do have a Denver base. You are an international company, and so you have these you allow your employees to volunteer, right? It's kind of built into your curriculum at work, if you will. But one of the things that I wanted to ask and didn't get a chance to in our last segment is how those volunteer projects are decided upon. I imagine there's a process. I imagine if I'm truly passionate about something and I work for you, I could probably request it somehow. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's it's always a balance, because when you have 1,500 employees, there can be requests of kind of everything and anything. And again, to go back to kind of what we talked about in the last segment, understanding that we're trying to make deep impact with a long-term commitment, not just trying to do a one-off opportunity here and there. And so we really want to select organizations that we know we're going to be able to give back to, not only as volunteers, but also philanthropically for years to come. And so, there's a process that takes place. Part of it is our Denver Leadership Council, which Ray is the leader of, and brings together kind of our most senior leaders, 15 most senior leaders in the Denver office, to really kind of oversee who we're working with, to listen, get feedback from them on what they're hearing from their employees. And then from that, we also have our Volunteer Council, which is made up of individual employees throughout the company. We have about 30 people that sit on that. They give us feedback. They tell us how they lead every one of our events. The Volunteer Council does. They're there making sure that everyone's volunteering. They're there making sure that we're recruiting our volunteers. And then it's my job as well to stay connected in the community and to really understand organizations, and if they are financially responsible organizations, if they are organizations that have quality volunteer management. So it's a combination of all those things. It's a combination of me doing my field work, bringing that back, getting the feedback, and listening to what our employees want to do, and then also having that alignment with who we are as a company and our focus areas. And so we take all of that in, we find the right organizations, and currently we work with about 10 to 12 organizations on a regular basis each year, throughout a variety of different ways. That includes board service, that includes volunteer engagement, that includes financial contributions, that includes working with like the Colorado Business Roundtable to put on events like the State of Higher Education Forum, which is a very important issue for us at TIAA. And so there's a process. It's a little bit of art, a little bit of science, and it works together nicely. But I think we found some really great partners that we work with that have great reputations and that really engage our employees in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Well, they did add the A in STEAM, for art, because it does go so well
That's
with
right.
science.
It does. Yes, it's part of that.
So I actually, in the last segment, there were a couple times that we mentioned CSR, but we didn't define it, and I forgot to ask. So I have the second opportunity to ask you, what is CSR and what does it stand for?
Sure. I mean, corporate social responsibility, you'll find a lot of different definitions out there. What I always try to pull back to is this idea of people, planet, profit, or product even, and just looking at those three different areas and how we're being responsible to make sure our people are being taken care of. That goes to that inclusion and diversity things that we talked about, that talks about how we operate as a company internally, our planet, which encompasses our community as well, and the people that are around us, as well as the environment, and we look at that holistically. and also just our product and our profit and how we earn our revenue and how we're doing that ethically. And so it's looking holistically at a corporation, looking at our different operations and looking everything through a lens of responsibility and saying, how can we be better at doing these things in a way that's better for our planet, in a way that's better for our people, in a way that's better for our community. And so companies do it in a variety of different ways. For us, it encompasses a lot of different aspects, and it also encompasses how we give back and how we show up in our communities.
There are 4 pillars that our corporate social responsibility team stands for: education, hunger, community engagement, and the environment, to Adeeb's point. And it covers all the P's as he outlines them. But it's important because then the employees know that we stand for something in the community, and when they give their time, when they give their dollars, when they bring their families to an event, that we're focusing on these 4 key areas. And also the Volunteer Council does a great job of helping us vet employee ideas, because as Adeeb mentioned earlier, there are about 10 organizations here in the community that we work with on a regular basis. But we can't work with everyone. We want to have that meaningful impact that Adeeb mentions.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get asked if you're in my position or in Ray's position by every nonprofit that's out there, and it's just as important sometimes to understand what you're capable of as well as what you're not capable of. And I think for us, what we've chosen to do is, instead of spreading ourselves thin, giving a little bit to a lot of different organizations, we tend to focus on less organizations to go deeper.
Quantity over quality.
Absolutely.
Quality over quantity. I'm sorry.
Quantity, yeah.
Yes. But yes, quality over quantity, which I personally resonate with. I think that's something, because when you volunteer as an individual, right? If you volunteer at too many places, you're spreading yourself too thin, and you're not giving your 100% in each place. So I totally understand that.
Right.
I want to talk about specific places here in Denver that you are volunteering and working with. I imagine that there are some places that we can't mention, and that's totally fine. You let me know what you can and can't say. Sure. But as far as that's concerned, I do know that there are definitely some schools and local nonprofits that you guys have in the works at the moment. So tell me about those.
Sure. Well, again, to go back to that idea of kind of quality over quantity. So in the school system, we really try to focus all of our work. We get asked by a lot of different districts and a lot of different individual schools to give back. We've really kind of sunk our foundations into working with Bruce Randolph, which is a 6 through 12 school just close to your guys' studio here, just up the street actually. And we've been working with them, partnering with them for years and years now, probably since before I came. And along with that, we work with Elyria Swansea Elementary School, which feeds into Bruce Randolph. So we're really trying to work with that population and that demographic. And so for Bruce, for example, we'll do school cleanup days where we go twice a year and we clean up the campus. We've sponsored murals for their gymnasium. We've painted inspirational quotes down their halls. We do teacher appreciation every single year, where during Teacher Appreciation Week, their teachers are getting breakfast and gifts, and every day has a different opportunity. Through Swansea, we work with that school through a program called TutorMate, where we're actually working with kids on a weekly basis, teaching students who are a little bit below reading proficiency some specific curriculum that will help them to attain proficiency by the end of 3rd grade. We've built gardens at Bruce Randolph. So just on the school side, there's a lot of different ways that we engage and interact with those schools. On top of that, we offer some financial contributions to those schools so they can have dollars for the things they need. We do a school supply drive every single year. And then, within each of the other areas, we have organizations that we work deeply with. In the hunger space, we work a lot with Metro Caring. I serve on the board of Metro Caring. We do a food drive for them every year. We have volunteer groups. I think we had 20 different volunteer groups there that volunteered last year. We're doing all sorts of holistic work, from giving them tote bags to their families to providing books for the kids who come with their families that they have. So it's not just one thing that we're showing up. We're really working with the organization, understanding the needs, and then working with them in a very defined way. We also work with the Grow House in the hunger space, which is also kind of right up by that Bruce Randolph. Again, in that Elyria Swansea neighborhood, we really try to work holistically there. We do volunteer projects with them every other month. We work in the financial education space with Junior Achievement. And in the education space, we also work with organizations like Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, We work a lot in the environmental space with Denver Urban Gardens. And just one example of kind of how we try to operate. So we have those, 4 different areas of community building, environment, hunger, and education. One of the things we always try to do is cross-pollinate those when we can. So with Denver Urban Gardens, for example, we've done a number of projects where we've sponsored and built a school garden. Now that school garden serves as an education lab for the students, and oftentimes we've had a curriculum that goes along with the garden itself. So you can teach kids about things like pollination, about things like how food is grown. And so it's an education workshop as well as just great environmental resource in terms of just being out there for the kids to kind of get their hands dirty as well as the teachers. It also addresses hunger because some of the food that's grown within those gardens, we have a couple of gardens specifically, that the food that's grown there goes to Metro Caring, which is our hunger partner. So again, anytime we can kind of work to bring organizations together, to create collaborations that otherwise wouldn't happen, to kind of look at all 3 or 4 of our different issue areas and to kind of find opportunities to bring those things together, that's the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah, to Adeeb's point around lasting impact, long after our volunteers have left, that garden is still there. And that garden is still producing for the community. It's still there as the education lab, long after our employees have gone from building it. That's the lasting impact that we're talking about. Is it's there long after we are.
Right.
Yeah, kind of this 1 stone 4 birds type of deal.
Absolutely. So we're always looking for the legacy projects. We're always looking to be able to make that deep long-term impact.
And even close to our office, we painted a mural across the street from Emily Griffith School on Lincoln. And so the employees get to go by that every day on their way to work and see the work that they've done or the work that their peers has done.
And that goes to not only our work with the nonprofit community, working with some of our higher need communities, working in some of the higher need issues, but we also take a big responsibility in working with the downtown community because that's where our offices are. And there's a lot of needs in the downtown community. So for example, taking a parking garage and painting a huge mural on it and being able to help sponsor that with the Downtown Denver Partnership, that's been a great way for us to kind of affect our immediate area. And Ray plays a huge role with the Downtown Denver Partnership to help us make as much impact as we can in our really immediate community.
We have a lot of young employees at TIAA, so the Downtown Denver Partnership City Build program, which we've been a champion sponsor of, I think, Adeeb, since its founding several years ago.
Yep.
So our younger professionals is one of our employee resource groups called the YoPros, or the Young Professionals Group. They're very active in the City Build program. TI also takes a lead role with other parts of the 5280 Loop. I think you're part of the advisory council on 5280 Loop for the Downtown Denver Partnership, which is a loop around the city, a bicycle loop that actually connects the areas around this downtown area to the downtown area and gives the ability for employees to bike to work.
One of the other things we've done recently, just last month, we actually opened up a new volunteer center. And this is at Mile High United Way's corporate headquarters, which is right there at 711 Park Avenue. And they have a great building there. And they had some space, which was tremendous space. It has these floor-to-ceiling windows. It faces downtown and beautiful views, but it was being underutilized. They moved some office space around. And so we saw an opportunity working in collaboration with them to develop this new volunteer center. And we just opened it last month. We ribbon cut it with Mayor Hancock. And in that space, it's meant to be this really flexible, adaptable kind of maker's space where you can pull tables together and work as a team on a specific volunteer project. You can spread all those tables out and have a big open space and do that in just a matter of a minute or two and really have this beautiful space where people can come together to make impact in the community. And that'll be interesting, again, from a long-term perspective to see how many great things, whether it's a strategic plan for a nonprofit organization or whether it's a group that came together to build bikes for kids at a school, that we're trying to be a catalyst for in our community.
Awesome to hear. I love that. And I have been living in Colorado now for about 9 years. And so I have seen the population boom, right? And so when that happens, there are some areas that will do really well. Rhino, for example, has had a wonderful upbuild. But the upper downtown area in Denver is not at its best. And so I like hearing that you guys are investing back into Denver. That's really exciting for me to know that there are pillars in the community that are taking pride in where you work. So I want to talk about that. I know that you just recently had an article in the Denver Business Journal about the rehab on Upper Downtown, if you don't mind touching a little bit more on that.
Absolutely. So the Downtown Denver Partnership manages the Business Improvement District, which essentially comprises the central business district of Denver. And if you look at Upper Downtown, it's mostly skyscrapers, mostly built in the 70s, early 80s. But there are 50 to 55,000 employees that commute to Upper Downtown every day and work in Upper Downtown every day. So through the partnership, I'm co-chairing with David Sternberg of Brookfield Properties, the Upper Downtown Task Force, which is really going to reimagine the Upper Downtown area. TIAA made a very large commitment with our 1,500 employees at 1670 Broadway. We refreshed all 14 floors and partnered with the building owners to build out the front of the building, to expand our dining capabilities, our cafe capabilities. But when you look at the 2007 Downtown Area Plan, it talks about grand boulevards. Grand boulevards are the entryways into the city, the entryways into the CBD or the Central Business District, like Broadway and Colfax and Lincoln and 17th. And these should be entryways that bring people into Upper Downtown. So Randy Thalen, who is with the Downtown Denver Partnership, is leading on the partnership's behalf with David and I, really looking at how do we reimagine this space and modernize it. We've seen Larimer Square take off. We've seen the Union Station Development District take off, as you mentioned, Alex Rhino. How do we make Upper Downtown one of those areas where employees just don't come to work, but they also come on weekends for recreation? And then you've got the bookends of Civic Center Station and Union Station. It's very easily accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I think too, I mean, Upper Downtown still has the most employees and is still the commercial core of Denver and the whole state of Colorado, really. And so there's so many opportunities there. And as I've just kind of snuck into a couple of these meetings that Ray's been leading, and to just see some of the ideas that are coming out of it and really bringing together all of the business leaders from the community, from that specific area, and trying to develop some of these long-term plans. It's really exciting work. And I know TIAA, we feel like we have a responsibility to help not only be involved, but to help lead some of that.
Yeah, and the city's a great partner. Eric Haraga from the city has been tremendous. He and his team are at the table with us. As Adeeb mentions, we've got 35 different community leaders from different companies, really representing every industry in downtown Denver.
That's awesome. And one of the things that we believe here on Connect and Collaborate, Colorado Business Roundtable, rising tide raises all boats, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, collaboration is a key term. It's not just an awesome radio show name, but it's true. And I think Colorado exhibits that across the board. There's one thing Colorado's amazing at, it's collaboration.
Right.
And you guys are doing a tremendous job with that. You mentioned too that Denver is an example for the rest of your company when it comes to volunteerism. What kind of feedback do you get from other offices? Are they blown away? Are they just like, oh, you guys are show-offs? How does that relationship work?
Well, I think the reality is that we have so many people who want to give back and who want to make an impact. And for our company, we have hub locations. We have hub locations in Charlotte. In Charlotte, we have close to over 5,000 employees that exist in Charlotte. And so our Charlotte office actually is extremely engaged in the community, and the work that they do is phenomenal. I mean, the number of events that we're able to do with 1,500 employees is just a fraction of what they're able to do with the 5,000 employees in Charlotte. And so what we've seen is when our hubs have kind of really led the way, and we're getting all these photos of our people giving back, and we're talking about the impact we're making, we've seen this tremendous demand in so many of our smaller offices around the country to do more of the same work, and we totally understand it. And so what we've done as a CSR team is try to have each of us take on a region or take on another market, and each year we really tried to build those from the ground up. Recently I've had the opportunity to go out to the West Coast. I've had the opportunity to go out to Chicago, really get the inspiration. Really, again, it's about just lighting that fire and, more importantly, providing some of that strategic direction to the employees. And once we're able to find those 2 or 3 or 4 kind of organizations to partner with, it really just takes off on its own because you have such great authentic leadership from the employees rising up. You have this great demand of people who want to give back. And so what we've tried to do is build that strategy from the hubs and then work into our smaller offices. And like we said last year, we had 60 offices and that engaged in CSR. If you'd have said that years ago, it wouldn't have been a reality. But because we've really invested as a company a lot into our processes and a lot of our people, it's become a reality.
And having a corporate social responsibility strategy is important, but the real work gets done on the ground. And that's where, Adeeb and Charla and the team in Denver, the volunteer councils of the employees, that's where they make it easy for the employees to show up. And they make it a fun event for them. So the strategies are great at the national level, but the real work getting done on the ground is really the hard work of the employees that are showing up every day, giving their time and their effort. And our team in Denver just makes it really easy for them.
Oh, awesome. I may have to switch jobs here, guys. I'll be giving you my application later today. We have a few minutes left here in this segment, and so I really want to hone in any of your favorite projects. You seem to be very passionate about this rehab for upper downtown Denver, which is really exciting. But when you first started, or perhaps midway through careers, I imagine that there's something that really struck you as far as a volunteer or getting involved with the community at all in any way through TIAA. Is there anything that was really special for you personally?
I could say that one of the projects that I really like is building the gardens, the sustainable gardens. It's something my son and I have done together, and it, as Adeeb mentioned earlier, it has that lasting impact, right? Those gardens are there for a really long time, and we know that they're a sustainable resource for the community. And you look at the population in Denver is growing, and there's so many parts of the community that are just taking off and doing really well, but there's the underserved part of our community. And just knowing that we're having an impact there makes a big difference.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting for me is the TutorMate program, which TutorMate is based out of a group from Chicago called Innovations for Learning. And what it does is it puts a laptop computer in the classroom of first grade classrooms in high-need schools, and it allows you to volunteer virtually. And so we had so many employees in our office at 1670 Broadway. We have what's called our National Contact Center. We have 300 employees who basically have to be at their desk all day long. And so, when we started getting involved in the community, it was really difficult for them to take time off and to be able to go volunteer on a project like a garden build. And so we looked at it. We, again, did all that due diligence. And then we found this great program called TutorMate, which you will call into the classroom every week, same kind of time, same day. So like Wednesday at 12:30, those employees have their buddy who they read to every week, and they have this software on their computer they're both looking at, and they're talking through, and they're reading through the words, and the employee gets to see kind of which words they want the student to read, and there's also some fun learning games that engage with it. And so to be able to offer something for those employees who can't get out of the office, but to be able to say, you know what, we'll still find a solution for you to give back. So now this last year, I think we had over 200 employees who've engaged with TutorMate around the country, and I think about 8 different offices, and we're affecting classrooms all over the country. And it's not only just the impact that they feel like they're making. I can't tell you the bonds that they make with these kids. I never imagined you could create that strong of a bond virtually, but we go and visit the students twice a year. We give each of the students a book. We have a pizza party. We kind of hang out, get to know each other. And when we do those, it's incredible to see the kids come run up and to the volunteers and give them hugs. And they've talked to them over the year, but they haven't always seen them. And so it's incredible. And just to be able to kind of say, we understand you want to give back, and we'll find a way to make that work. I think that's been incredible for us to be able to pull off. And not only that, but another program that we do is called these Rise Against Hunger meal packs. So international hunger is obviously a huge issue. There's close to 1 billion people that struggle with food security every single day around the world. And so we've worked with a program called Rise Against Hunger, which allows us in our office to do these great big group with 100 people packing meals together in an assembly line process. And typically, this last year we just passed our 1,000th meal packed. In March.
By TIAA employees.
By TIAA employees. So we've packed over 1 million meals, and those get distributed in emergency situations throughout the world. And they're done so in a meaningful way, to where oftentimes they'll go to schools to encourage kids to go to school to get their meals. And it's a very holistic, impactful way to get involved. But again, it's a way we in our own office can make an impact in a community far away.
Oh my gosh, you guys, that is so exciting, and I love each one of those. I like that you got to work with your son on the community gardens, right? And so your employees are engaging with their families. You are pretty passionate about the not only the hunger drive, but the tutor mates, which again, you really looked at your people that have to stay in the office all the time and made sure they were still involved.
Right.
So you guys have great corporate responsibility to your employees, which is something you don't see very often. Congratulations again on your 100 years that you celebrated last year.
Thank you.
And that is wonderful to hear. I want to hear so much more. Unfortunately, this is the end of the show. It has been wonderful having you both on. Thank you so much for joining me. It was such a pleasure. So find more information in the description below. We will have links for you to see what TIAA is all about and how you might be able to get involved outside of their organization as a volunteer. So be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.